certificate issued to him by the Chicago State University. Well, according to Tinubu's lawyers, an unidentified clerk of the university made the error about the date the school stated on his recently issued certificate. Tinubu's lawyers argued that the university incorrectly wrote the date of graduation as June 27th, 1979, instead of June 22nd, 1979, along with a change in the university's logo, which created the appearance of differences between an earlier issued diploma and the one issued in response to a 2022 subpoena. The claim is in their response to a suit filed by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar seeking the disclosure of Tinubu's academic records from the university. Well, users on social media have shared mixed reactions. Before I take tweets, Rufai, I'd love for you to just chime in here, because you know that this issue of whether certificates forgery has been, on the forefront of all eyes on the judiciary.
No, but we just have to state clearly that anything happening in American courts is of no consequence to what the judiciary has reserved a date for already. This is separate from it. But there's been many conversations around this Chicago debacle. And many cases have been filed. And many subpoenas have been issued, all right, as regards this. And some actors somewhere have orchestrated also many lies. One of them, I think we had to talk about this around November last year, was that we brought to fore that there had been a case filed as regards this conundrum of certificates at the court in Abuja. I think it was the Federal High Court or something. I don't know the jurisdiction of the court now. Where Enahoro Eba, a lawyer, said that he had instructed his partner, Knowles, in Chicago, to subpoena Chicago to get details of, degrees and all of that, and school records and all of that. And he said this was at variance with what the president, now sends to INEC then.
Right.
There's that conundrum. And I think we talked emphatically as regards this. That was what happened then. Now, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar in America also using the court system to be able to know more. And in fact, I think for the sake of clarification, somebody had claimed that they even went to Chicago.
I know that's somebody.
The point I made
yes.
was the person claimed they went to Chicago on the 19th of September. That was the day they visited Chicago. But why is it that the document the person claimed Chicago gave them was unsigned and it was dated in June? So there's been a lot of conundrum, and I would like the courts to be able to unpack it. But Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has filed in America, and the response of the Tinubu team now is the fact that there was a clerical error as regards date of graduation and the likes and all of that. Whatever it is, this matter is sub judice, and the court will rule. What I just gave is a hitherto background. I will not talk about the matter that is sub judice.
Right.
All right? But there's been a lot of back and forth and confusion as regards this. So let's see how this court process pans out. The deposition and the reportage is all there for all to read.
Right.
Pure and simple.
Well, you know that the United States had given Tinubu until August 23rd, that is what, 2 days ago, to, give reasons as to why his records should not be released to the former vice president. But, before I come to you, let me take some tweets. This is from Spotlight, who wrote, Chicago State University had the opportunity to proactively issue an official statement to disassociate itself from the narco runner and lay out whatever went wrong with its internal admission processes over 45 years ago, but they preferred to cover it up and hoped the stench would go away. This is certainly how not to handle a crisis. PR 101. Everyone knows that a lot of people traveled and worked with other people's identities back then because of absence of biometrics, etc. So there is no way they haven't reviewed this case over and over and identified what went wrong since Nigerians started pursuing this matter. Over to you, Ayo.
Yeah, has been mentioned already. This matter has come up a number of times, and in the last election, it tried to, some people tried to bring it up again, especially from the opposition. And it is important, even though it has no bearing on the judgment that's reserved by, that's in court currently in terms of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. I think it's important for Nigerians to know the truth, even if it's just to put it on the record. And then one thing about the United States of America is that they will uphold the rule of law. And so even though Chicago State University hitherto had not wanted to and had given a post-dated date to release the details of the school records, by the act of law, the former Vice President Atiku has been able to place a demand for them to release it. So the onus would be on them then to see if they are going to do so or not. At the end of the day, even though, as has been established, it has no bearing on the judgment, it is important for Nigerians to know the truth. And let's put pay to this conversation around, where is your background, what school did you attend, what school didn't you attend. I think let's just have closure, as a people. I think that's all that I would say about this one.
Yeah.
Welcome to my channel, where we discuss everything and all things politics, especially about the 2023 presidential election held in Nigeria on February 25, 2023. And the video you just watched is that of the crew members of the Arise Television. The Arise Television crew are usually very objective. I respect them for their objectivity. Of course, with the exception of Ruben Abati, who is often pander to certain political interests. So you can therefore imagine my surprise when they were also carried away by some of the propaganda going on that what was being sought, what Atiku is looking for at Chicago court, with which to bolster his case, excuse me, with which to bolster his case against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, that what he's looking for in Chicago is not relevant to the matter at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. That is not true. That is not true. It's a kind of propaganda that people are making, especially those who want to obfuscate the facts as it is, as regards to this matter. So the Arise crew got it wrong. You can see how Rufai reiterated that what Atiku is looking for from the Chicago court with which to indict Tinubu is not relevant to what is going to happen at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. It is not true. If it is not relevant, Atiku wouldn't have gone there to hire lawyers to get the academic details, academic credentials of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at Chicago State University. And that's the essence of this video, to debunk that misinformation that what Atiku is looking for in Chicago about certificate of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu authenticity is irrelevant to the matter at hand at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. That is not true. And I will prove it here in this video that what Atiku is looking for is very relevant to the matter at hand in Abuja in terms of seeking the proof that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should be disqualified for inconsistency in his academic credentials, which is another way of putting it mildly, of forgery or alleged forgery in his academic credentials from the University of Chicago. That's why Atiku Abubakar is there. And we're going to look into that and to prove it that it is relevant to the matter in Abuja, and that Atiku is not in Chicago on a wild goose chase. Okay? It's not true. Now, let's get this fact. Since the back and forth began at the Chicago court, that's in Illinois, Chicago, on why President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's academic credentials must be made available or should be made available to Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party. There had been misleading information that what was being sought after was not relevant to the case in Abuja. Okay? Surprisingly, the Arise news crew, who ought to know better, seem to have been deceived into accepting that narrative. So this video is to correct that faulty narrative. The truth be told, Tinubu's certificate forgery allegation is one of the grounds that Atiku Abubakar and others are seeking the nullification of Tinubu's election. What Atiku is doing in America is to use the American courts, okay, to literally force Chicago State University to make Tinubu's academic credentials or records available to Atiku, so that he could be able to use it to establish that the certificate Tinubu tendered in courts in Abuja and also submitted to the Independent National Electoral Commission was fake, and therefore used that to seek his disqualification in line with Section 137 of the 1999 Constitution. You can go and read the whole of 137 of the 1999 Constitution. That section gives you all the conditions that somebody could be disqualified from seeking the office of the president. It gives you details of it. And that's what I think is trying to prove. Okay, so it is not true for anybody to make light of it and say it's not relevant to the matter in Abuja. What Atiku is looking for in Chicago. Okay. And in any case, in the outing in Chicago, it has been proven that the certificate that was released to Atiku through his lawyer was authentic. You know, there was the result of Tinubu that was tendered at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, which is at variance with what Tinubu himself presented to INEC. And they also tendered in the court. But from what we have found out from the court details, it shows that the result that was tendered by Atiku Abubakar as the result of Tinubu is authentic. The only matter we're having now is Tinubu claiming that what was released to Atiku Abubakar was a mistake. There were mistakes, the inconsistencies in it, and everything. Is the mistake of a clerk at the University of Chicago State University. But he validated the fact that Atiku Abubakar presented original certificate of Tinubu as obtained by Chicago State University. Now, if you compare that with what Atiku Abubakar or what Tinubu presented through his lawyers at the tribunal, you find out that really there's a lot of difference, and it could be enough ground in a sense society for the candidates to be disqualified. Okay? So, Atiku is standing on a solid ground on that particular issue. The certificate he tendered as Tinubu's certificate can no longer be described as purported. It is real. The only difference now is that Tinubu and Chicago State University, they are now claiming that the matter is the mistake in it is the fault of the clerk. And the clerk also went and put a wrong logo, wrong fourth point. Okay. Everything mistake that was there they say is the fault of the clerk, including the logo and everything else, the dates he graduated. Okay. So they are not blaming anybody. They are not saying that result is not true, but they're only saying that the result that was presented was a mistake made by a clerk in the university. Now, they are not denying that there was discrepancies in Tinubu's results. Tinubu is not denying it, but only saying that it is the fault of the clerk. Okay? So it is important that we should note that Atiku in his petition to the tribunal, go and read Atiku's, even the final written address, had alleged that the Chicago State University certificate so presented by Tinubu was forged, as there are some features such as date of birth, name, gender, state of origin on the face of the document, showing that same does not belong to Tinubu, thereby making the provision of Section 137J of the Constitution relevant in the consideration of the issue. So you can see that the issue of Chicago certificate is relevant to the case at hand in Abuja. In any case, if Atiku could have access to Tinubu's academic records, which were not available at the time they were presenting evidence, supposing Atiku doesn't have this evidence, because Atiku want Chicago University to give more records of Tinubu. If they cannot accept it now, maybe because the case has been closed at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, a new evidence coming from Chicago to reinforce Atiku's position can be presented at the Supreme Court. So it is wrong to dismiss it as irrelevant. What Atiku presented, what Atiku is doing in America is irrelevant. That is just a mere academic. The way the Arise crew and some other people elsewhere are trying to make out of it. It is not true. It is very relevant. The smoking gun that Atiku is looking for is going to come out from Chicago. And Tinubu is aware of it. That's why Tinubu is doing everything to block it. Because ordinarily, if Tinubu is sure that he has nothing to hide, you don't have to go and block Chicago State University from releasing his academic credentials to Atiku Abubakar. He ought to have made it open, allow him to get whatever he is looking for. After all, his result is impeccable. His credential is impeccable. His documents are impeccable. But it appears they are not so, because if they were, I don't think there's any need for Tinubu to be objecting to the university releasing the results. And then the university is prevaricating about releasing the results and giving all kinds of conditionalities. Even Chicago State University also appears to be hiding something. But that being said, the truth of the matter remains that this matter is relevant to the effort to disqualify Tinubu from being part of the 2023 presidential election in Nigeria. Okay? Now, in any case, in the court in Chicago, both the Chicago State University and Tinubu agreed that the certificate that Atiku tendered in Abuja to the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal is authentic, and that the result came from Chicago State University. It also confirms that there are discrepancies between that tendered by Atiku and the one Tinubu tendered through his lawyers in Abuja. In fact, in the matter, in the tribunal, Tinubu's lawyer had argued that what was needed to be president of Nigeria, you can go and read their last written address. They said that what was needed to be president of Nigeria is secondary education. And that since Tinubu has secondary education, the issue of his Chicago State University certificate cannot invalidate his election. That's part of the defense they presented. You can go and read their final written address. They said that the allegation of forgery of Chicago State University that Atiku was making at the tribunal, that it is immaterial, since it's only secondary education that was needed for somebody to become president. So what they are saying that the court should disregard the forgery allegation. But the forgery allegation cannot be disregarded because it was submitted under oath to INEC. So it cannot be disregarded. It's relevant to the matter. Okay? But they say, in their defense, they say, forget about the certificate discrepancies. Forget about the Chicago State University. After all, Atiku met the requirement of having Tinubu met the requirement of having a secondary education. Now, Tinubu's lawyers making this argument conveniently forgot that Tinubu himself, in his INEC form ahead of 2023, left the space for primary and secondary education vacant, which was an indication that he never attended primary and secondary school, which now raises the question, what are the proofs that Tinubu has secondary education? What are the proofs? Since in the form he filled in INEC ahead of the election, he left primary and secondary education vacant and filled only Chicago State University. If you remember, when Tinubu submitted it, go and Google this and I'm telling you, I have no primary, I did not attend primary or secondary school. Tinubu, if you type this thing inside Google right now as I'm talking to you, you will see the report of newspapers when this matter came up after Tinubu submitted his form to INEC. It was a viral news all over Nigeria that Tinubu didn't attend primary and secondary school. Newspapers carried it because he left those two places vacant. Now his lawyers are arguing that he has secondary education, therefore the people should disregard the issue of discrepancies in his certificate at Chicago State University. In any case, who are his classmates in secondary schools? What is the name of his secondary school? What is the name of the secondary school that he attended? Recall that in 1999, ahead of his emergence as the Alliance for Democracy governorship candidate for Lagos State, he claimed to have attended St. John's Primary School, Aroloya, Lagos. From there, he said he went to Children's Home School in Ibadan. That was what he felt. But it was alleged that these two schools never existed. Perhaps aware of this development, he decided not to fill anything for primary and secondary ahead of 2023 because people are waiting for him to fill those two schools again. His competitors are waiting for him to fill those two secondary schools that was allegedly does not exist, that he filled in his form in 1999. Knowing that they had laid ambush for him, obviously, he left those two places vacant. He didn't feel that St. John's Primary School, Lagos, or the home school in Ibadan this time around. Now, ahead of the 2023 election, in an affidavit submitted to INEC as part of his eligibility filings, Tinubu claimed that his school certificates were stolen by unknown persons during the military regime. So the documents released by INEC before the election show that Tinubu left the columns for his primary and secondary education unmarked. You can Google it and go and check newspaper headlines, newspaper reports on this matter. When INEC made public the eligibility forms that people filled ahead of the election. Of course, this development contradicted his claim in 1999 when he contested for Lagos governor, as I said earlier. Now, the column for university, which he filled Chicago State University, is being alleged to be fake or forged by Atiku Abubakar. And to prove his case, Atiku Abubakar instituted a case against Chicago State University. Atiku Abubakar was deliberate. He didn't include Tinubu in the matter. He just wanted Chicago State University to make Tinubu's academic records available. But Tinubu, uncomfortable with this development, rushed to the courts to stop the documents from being released to Atiku Abubakar. So we can see, therefore, that in summary, what Atiku Abubakar is seeking in Chicago is indeed relevant to the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal matter in Abuja. It is therefore wrong to insinuate that what is happening in Chicago court, is not relevant to the case in Abuja or in the case at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, as there arise news crew and several other misinformation going around across the country made some people to believe it is not true, that it is not relevant. It is very relevant. Atiku was challenging the certificate of Alhaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu, so presented to the Independent National Electoral Commission. So how can you therefore say that going to America to get to the authentication or certification from Chicago, whatever is obtained from there is not relevant to the matter at stake in Abuja, as the Arise News crew and several other misinformation merchants want Nigerians to believe? That matter is relevant. What people should be interested in is, what is it about Tinubu's academic records that Tinubu himself don't want the world and Nigerians to see, that he is desperate to stop Atiku Abubakar from getting it? That, my friend, is the smoking gun. If that smoking gun could be released, Tinubu will be disqualified. And that's what I believe. Because if there is no smoking gun that Atiku is looking for, and that is very relevant to the case in Abuja, Tinubu would have ignored him. He will go to Chicago, waste his time, and get a documents that will be of no use. But that is not what Tinubu is taking, obviously, because he has gone to the courts and doing everything possible to stop Atiku Abubakar from laying his hands on those documents. And unfortunately for Nigerians, Chicago State University is aligning with Tinubu to ensure that these documents are not released to Atiku Abubakar. Now it is now left for the courts in America to actually put his foot down and say, look, this man is going to be the president of over 200 million black people in the world, the most populous nation in Africa. The democracy in Africa should be made to be stronger. And how can it be stronger when the institutions are weak? If America connive with the Chicago State University because of one leverage or the other they want to have on Nigeria's president, and they did not release all those documents, it is the democracy in Africa and in Nigeria that will suffer. And then America will come back someday and come and claim that there is no democracy. African democracy is floundering. African democracy is not strong. The institutions in Africa is not strong to sustain its democracy. When America itself have failed in showing a good example. Because I had expected, and most Nigerians had expected, that University of Chicago should be able to make everything Atiku wanted available to him. Because if you have nothing to hide, obviously, releasing the result of your students should not be an issue. But of course, they are now citing privacy law in America, student privacy law. Okay, that's what they are standing on. But the truth of the matter remains that if it is something that they want to help Nigeria to get to the root of this matter, they should happily release these documents. They should be proud of their students release his record. And even their students should be happy to make his record available to Nigerians and to the world. But the summary of it all is that let nobody deceive anybody that what Atiku is looking for is not relevant, because Atiku wants Tinubu to be disqualified, and Chicago State University results is what Atiku is banking on to disqualify him. So don't come and tell Nigerians that what Atiku is looking for in America is not relevant to the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. That, my friend, is the matter at stake. And those spreading that information, they are spreading false information. Because what is happening in Chicago is relevant for Atiku to prove his case in Abuja. Thank you for watching this video. And if you are new to my channel, you are not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel, hit the subscription button, hit the notification bell. When you subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell, anytime I have a new video, you will be among the first to know. God bless you. And please don't forget to like this video, because when you like it, God will rank it high and recommend it for more people. Thank you, and God bless you and yours.